from Muyo, Nigeria. My name is Eddie Youngsingin and Dunobong, and this is Environmental Resort. I want to thank you sincerely for keeping faith with us this past month, and of course, the duration of time we've been bringing programs with regards to the environment your way. And of course, thank you for being that steadfast to always, give us the necessary support and encouragement to by watching our videos, by sharing our videos, and of course by inviting people to join the conversation. Thank you so very much. Yes, think about from Monday or thereabout, there's been something happening, more like a wildfire in Africa. That is the African Climate Summit, the maiden edition, and where leaders across Africa and, of course, across the globe gather in Africa to talk about climate related issues as it pertains to Africa. There's been a release or a declaration by the African Union Commission, endorsed or signed by head of states across Africa with declarations, demands, and all of that. But the African Climate Summit has come to a close. What next? Like we ask in advocacy engagement, I would like to throw this poser. What has changed after those deliberations, after the declaration? What should we expect? I want to promise that in our engagement, perhaps next week or in the days ahead, I will be engaging with persons who had attended the African Climate Summit. And of course, we are transiting into the African Climate Week, a different event entirely, but chain into one. So I'll be engaging with persons who we are fortunate to be on ground in Nairobi, Kenya, to take part in the African Climate Summit, and of course transitioning to the African Climate Week, where they will be bringing you up to speed with live activities that are the things that took place there in Nairobi, Kenya. But today, we're from the African Climate Summit. I will be talking about something very important, something that even some parents are always afraid to share with their children. And it's actually a very beautiful experience for me, because it's about the ladies, but today it's not the gender of the female gender that will be talking about this particular issue. So today on Environmental Resort, we'll be talking about menstrual hygiene and the environment. How does it affect the environment, or how does a healthy environment contribute to the proper mental hygiene? According to UNICEF, every month about 1.8 billion people across the world menstruate. You can imagine the number. So, and there's a funny part of it, talking about the cross gender and every other person, they all menstruate. And so you see the beauty of research. I got to find out that. So, there are impacts to this. There are environmental concerns. How do these guys dispose of their and all that has to do with this issue? So today, to join us and of course to share his expert knowledge on this particular issue of concern is a very dynamic and versatile fellow, a man that I got to know not quite long ago, that he served Nigeria twice. Some people will run away from even serving during their national youth service once, but fortunately or unfortunately for him, they had to mobilize him twice, so he was not comfortable with that idea, but he did that twice. And so you can imagine how Nigerian he is, very loyal at that. And of course, he's a seasoned man of God, pastor, and of course, he calls himself that he's multi-disciplinary, and of course, I can attest to this. And he is a poet, and he's so much passionate about the things that pertains to the well-being of the society and environment at large. And he is the executive director of Clean Nation Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring on board Pastor Ayo Okelano. Pastor Ayo, you're welcome to Environmental Resort.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Edion. It's great being here with you. It's a great pleasure, and I hope we'll have a very wonderful time with you this evening. Thank you very much.
I hope so too. I hope so too. I must tell the world that I'm thrilled by your profile. I had to make that. How I managed to make that a bridge, I don't know. I have to give myself kudos, because I'm going through your profile, and of course the things you've done, transcending from the social sciences to the core sciences, and even to the art, core art courses, all a line of discipline. is something very beautiful to imagine. But there I am talking to someone in your caliber. So thank you so very much for sparing your time. And especially, there's one attribute I have come to notice of Pastor Ayo. He's a very patient fellow, because we had some technical issues. This conversation was supposed to be coming your way by 4:30 WAT, but unfortunately, due to technical glitches, we could not bring it your way by that time. But Mr. Ayo showed resilience, and of course, it's been very patient to remain with us up to this moment. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ayo. So
You're welcome.
let's start on something very burning. I wanted to, just throw in your light before your thoughts before we go into the main subject of the day. African Climate Summit. It has happened, and this is the first time on that Africa is hosting a climate-related summit that is peculiar and particular to Africa. What is your thought about on the significance of this particular summit?
When you look at the summit, it's so interesting that young people could be involved in what we are looking at specifically when you talk about climate justice. I know a number of people are not quite, satisfied with what is coming out of that summit, but we're still hoping for the best because we'll keep fighting until we get what we want.
Mm,
Yes, we keep fighting. Because when you look at this, the government is not looking at what we're looking at. And unfortunately, leadership is not synonymous to politics. It's unfortunate that when you are a leader, you are supposed to, a politician, you're supposed to be a leader. But it's unfortunate that
mm,
leaders are not actually, politicians are actually not proving leadership because they are expected to lead the way in what we're talking about. But as we speak, we know the outcome of what we have and how much is being put, on the table just to see that we could get something beautiful out of it. Look at what groups like PACJA, for instance, is trying to, work on, because we cannot fold our hands. The planet Earth is ours. But you know the funniest thing? A large number of people don't realize that it is ours. They don't realize that sustainability has to deal with not just now, but tomorrow. A lot of them, what they are focusing on is what they can grab now, what we can just do now, and that is the end. So when
mm,
we're talking about that we have to work on this 1.5 degrees centigrade, we have to work on the earth temperature, we have to work on carbon footprinting, we have to work on it. To some, they don't understand what we're talking about. And that is why, whether we like it or not, down to the various countries, down to the grassroots, the leadership at the grassroots, because this is where it starts from. When you look at Nigeria, for instance, if you say somebody is a senator, unfortunately, some senators have never been local government chairman. But I bet you a large number of people who are local
mm,
government chairmen are gunning for something higher. They want to soon become my commissioners in the state. Look at my state, for instance. My governor is not a minister. The erstwhile governor is not a minister. That's how it starts from. Yes,
mm,
yes, he's a minister. So you can see. And this is the trend. So you see people from being a councillor, he wants to become the local government chairman. From there, he wants to become a commissioner. From there, he wants to think about it. I think I can be the governor. From there, he wants to go to the house, of rep, or he wants to go to the Senate or become, So I think the onus is on us to get it down, trickle it down to the grassroots. And may I also say this? Let's not leave this to people we think are elitists. I'm sorry. A large number of people getting into politics today, it's not as if they have read so much. Let's just be frank.
mm.
Yes, the other time they were trying to do clearance for the ministers. You can see I have my 5 level credit. Sorry, I have my. Okay, you are laughing already. You see, because
You had to keep the best ones and bring these other ones because you felt they were not important.
exactly. So you can see what we're talking about. So we need to get it down. The onus is on us. Let's not look at and say this one is an old man. No,
Mm,
let's get it to them and let's get their children. I think I was looking at the TikTok today. There's this young lady who was getting her father into the social media space. And what was she doing? She was just bringing up issues with her father. She wants him to talk.
Mm.
Yes. You know, she was, sometimes it could be that, Daddy, I'm dating a man. What do you see to that? It could be something like, how is it that you've been able to keep this marriage to this point? You know, things like that. So let's get their children. On a more serious note, yes, let's get their children. Let's befriend their children. Look at the first
Yeah.
son of Nigeria, for instance. Is anybody doing anything on getting him on the climate change space? Is anybody thinking about that? Are we looking for how to get him involved? Are we calling him for a dinner? Are we calling him for a conference? Are we inviting him for something? Please, let's invite all of these people. Let's target their children. When we target their children will speak to them and say, Daddy, are you thinking about this? Mama, are you thinking about
Mm.
this? Is what is in vogue now.
I, I,
So,
Thank you. I think the essence of this is to make sure that our politicians do not just do politics; they understand the essence of leadership,
exactly.
and of course, they should also make leadership has sort of human face. Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Pasoyo.
Thank you.
Let's get to the subject matter of the day: menstrual hygiene and the environment. When I shared this particular topic of conversation with people, they were like, "What does menstruation has to do with the environment? How do they relate?" And I told them, "Do not worry. I have a competent hand who will be, of course, drawing the lines." And of course, sharing all that needs to be known. So, how do we relate menstrual hygiene and the environment, or to the environment, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Edion. Now, I want you to understand this. We're from the earth, right?
Of course.
Good. We are a product of the soil. And so, if anybody is saying, what's the relationship between menstruation and environment? I tell them everything. One of my students, I'm a lecturer. Now, one of my students was doing a project on menstruation and feminine church growth. And when she went for her defense, it was like, what nonsense is this? How can you be talking about menstruation and church growth? But you know, there was a UNICEF survey, a research that I was involved with some years back. Interestingly, Osun State was also a part of the research. Just 3 states in Nigeria were picked, and Osun was privileged to be a part of it. I joined them at the end of the research, and that research found that menstruation is one of those things that has kept girls out of school because a large number of them couldn't afford the menstrual kit. So, and because of stigmatization, they have to stay at home. Because if you are sitting down and you are wet already, she can't stand up until everybody is gone home. And you know those boys, many of them are yeah. But what's the relationship of menstruation and the hurt? When you look at the menstrual pad people use, check it. What do they have there? Nylon, plastics.
Yeah.
And when you look at these plastics, you're going to find out that the disposal, how do we dispose menstrual kits? How do we dispose all these sanitary pads? A large number of people who menstruate, some want to flush via the toilet, and their toilet get blocked. When their toilet get blocked, the plumber comes and say, women in this house, you have to be careful. I will keep coming if you don't stop this. And the landlord will begin to shout. So they resort to where? Yes, they resort to where? They resort to the solid waste disposal bin. And so what do? We find them littered in all of these places. If you go to the dump sites, my brother, you are going to be shocked. Just go to dump sites where you are. You will be shocked by the amount of menstrual pads you find there, used ones. Now, when you see this, what happens? We're talking about plastics. When we talk about plastics, we are looking at plastics don't even biodegrade because they are not they are not things that will degrade biologically. They are synthetic. So how do we talk about it? So as long as we have over 1 billion menstruants in the world, then there is a problem with menstruation and with the hurt. Because what happens? They drop these things don't decompose. So what happens? They keep piling in the hurt. They keep piling. And so water percolation begins to have problem. Water cannot percolate. And when water cannot percolate, what happens? We flood another level of flooding. Because water that's supposed to get down to the water table, they cannot. Water that's supposed to run off cannot, as it were, they are blocked. And then you begin to notice something. The riverways, the waterways are all blocked. And then we begin to say, what is happening? There's going to be a lot of pollution. The other time we got core members, we said we wanted to celebrate, a kind of the Earth Day. And we said, let's go to dump site, a dump site in Osun State. Let's go and walk there. And you'll be dazed what we were packing. Yes. And you can guess what we packed. A lot. So these are what we're talking about. So if you are saying what is the relationship between menstruation and climate change, or between menstruation and the environment, menstruation has that capacity to pollute the environment if it's not well done. That is the problem.
Managed.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've hit the nail on the head now. That it has a very serious implication on the environment if not properly managed.
That's it.
And of course, you've talked about sometime in 2022, Nigeria faced one of the worst flooding, had the worst flooding experience. And apart from the suspecting, I think it was being traced to the dam being open and all of that. But I would say that, well, like you've said, that the issue of water percolation and of course water getting down to the water table and the channels being blocked, this would have been one of the reasons we had such a terrible experience. Lives were lost, livelihoods were lost, and a whole lot. So thank you so very much for that very particular thought. So let's get to talk about the makeup of this sanitary part. And you've talked about that it's basically, I did a research and I found out that 90% of the makeup of sanitary pad are made of plastics, apart from cotton here and there. Are there no ways? Are there no innovations you would want to suggest that we tend to help women or ladies who are of a menstruating age to adapt or adjust to so that they could see how they could reduce their plastic footprint?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dion. You see, we live in a time in history that people are not interested. Now, there was a time the reusable menstrual kit was coming into being celebrated. In Osun State, for instance, if anybody wants to do that, they would just say, go to a Clean Nation, they will teach you. We took time, and what was this? We took time to go to the Ministry of Education and say that we want to train teachers. We train teachers in the 30 local governments on what? Menstrual hygiene management. Because initially we wanted to train over 2,000 girls, but that was the time the Senator Adeleke passed on. There was some noise, and unfortunately our venue was the Redeemers University, because we are in Ede and they just partnered with us to give us their big hall. So one way or the other, I said the governor is not interested in that program again because of taking permission. They said we wanted to do Boko Haram, Chibok girls for the state. Like we want to camp all the girls because they're coming from all over the state. We said, he's a madman that will do that. What do I have to feed about 3,000 girls? How many days? I said, that's not it. So we resorted to training the teachers. Let it be a TOT and let it get down. Now, my brother, do you know something? All of these things is just that we've looked at the environment. How could we help the environment? Because we have over 1 billion menstruants. Look at Nigeria, for instance. Look at the number of girls. Girls now menstruate from earlier ages. I remember the first time I was challenged, why are you interested in girls? I said, I have 3 girls. And they live in this community. And so I'm seriously interested in girls. So they say, oh, this is serious. I say, yes, a very serious business. So what am I talking about? The environment, these components, we can break them down. There are some organizations now that are making biodegradable, using biodegradable materials. But are they affordable? They are not. The reusable one, we took a survey. We want to see, because I found that a lot of people thought there's money in the reusable. I know a number of organizations in Germany and the rest that are getting involved with reusable. But I challenged my people one day. I said, come, let's look at these 5 factors. Soap. How much is soap? Water. Is water so accessible to some of these girls? Time. She has to be in the market. Now, you're talking about weather, the sun. Because how many of them have iron to iron this thing? I now said another thing is their sensitivity. 5 factors. We were looking at these 5 factors, and we found out that how many of these girls can wash their own blood because they want to reuse that thing. Can you see that? Now, if she has washed it, are we sure the sun was coming out to dry this, kill bacteria? Are we sure? Now, are we sure she has the time? This is a girl that has maybe sold a car in the morning, agidi in the morning before going to school. School bell was ringing when she quickly went to drop it and ran to school. Now in the afternoon, she's back to the market. They won't go back home until maybe 7 p.m. or 8. Where has she got the time, if she was menstruating, to wash the blood out of the menstrual reusable? This is another problem. So what we need is we can have, and there are biodegradable materials that have been used, but this particular product or this particular type, shall I use the word species of the menstrual kits, are expensive. Can we have them? Can we advocate more for them? This is what we started talking about when people are saying that they gave condom for free. We said sex is natural. But for all these young people, sex is an option. They can choose not to, they can abstain. But menstruation is not an option. It's much more natural. Yes. So we said, can't we have, I think we began to talk about tax. The tax on menstrual products. Yes. By the time we have reduced tax on this, we can now begin to say, okay, can we have materials that are biodegradable? Can we have tax reduction on this? Can we even have an exemption on this when it comes to that? Can we have the government saying, okay, I'm giving grants to organizations that wants to come up with this? Can we have philanthropists coming up and say, how do we help girls? How do we help people? Okay, they're going to pay 50% of the cost. They're going to pay 75% of the cost. Let's have people coming in. It's not as if there are no researches going on the disposal of menstrual kits, but it's not going to work. I've seen places they said you need an incinerator. My brother, do you know what it costs to burn one blood-soaked, filled menstrual pad? The unit of electricity that it will consume. We're wasting electricity. Okay, if we say we want to use, okay, let's go and make fire, make this, we're polluting the atmosphere.
And then we're talking about carbon dioxide, release of carbon.
Yes. So what are we talking about? So we're using a solution to create another problem that will not work. But when we have things that are biodegradable, they just, as you are putting them in the soil, it's just a matter of pack them together, dig your hole, put them there, cover them as if you are making manure. In fact, they become manure. I remember I belong this group.
Please go on.
Yeah, Susanna is extinct now. It used to be Susanna. It's something on water and waste product. I was on the platform one day, though the platform is still operational, but the group is no longer, Now, I found this person, this team that worked on the type of thing you pour on excreta. And because they were talking about people going to all these Himalayas, going to, all these high mountains, how do they, how do you take care of excreta? And these people were able to come up with chemicals. You pour it on your excreta, it turns the excreta to fertilizer. Of course, naturally, excreta is fertilizing. Yeah.
Of course.
Yes, but they now do it such that it's not irritating to you. So we can have such, by the time you put it down, those things become what? Manuring to the soil. By the time you dig them up or anybody goes there, they will no longer have challenges because they'll be coming from material that are biodegradable. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Ayo. I would have wanted you to talk more and more on that, but there's something very disturbing in Nigeria, and of course, that's about talking about WASH, and I don't know the level of research you've done in Osun State, and of course how your coverage when it comes to WASH in Nigeria. But would you say that we have a WASH facility available enough to help our ladies, menstruating ladies, take care of their menstrual hygiene?
The challenge is this: menstrual hygiene management is a component of WASH, water and sanitation. Yeah, It's a component of WASH. But the challenge we have is this. Um, Ministry of Water Resources and the rest of them, we've had a number of programs for them. UNICEF has done this, done that. But what I'm saying is this. I think there has to be a political will on the part of our leaders, our politicians now. You see, WASH, what I see them focusing on, I've been involved in WASH for a while now too, but what I see them focusing presently on is just water issues and reusable, what do you call it, menstrual kits. You know, that's what I see focus on. And apart from that, I see that we don't have enough sensitization to the grassroots. You still find girls using tissue paper, it doesn't work. They are soaked before they finish. You find some of them using rag, all this rag, they get infected. You find some of them using, what do you call it now? Leaves. Yes, you find some of them using their notebooks. Yes, this I will send the research to you. It's documented. You know, a number of things has been done on this, but we need to come to the table.
I will appreciate that.
Yeah, to come to the table. What do we actually need? What we need is menstrual pads that are biodegradable. That's what we need. And unfortunately, in the watch sector, I don't know how many persons are talking about that. You know, I hope we've not politicized it as well. You know, when we came for, was it this January? We came to the meeting in Abuja, the AGM for for CSDF Net. I saw the present, you know, the president of what's the name of the group now? I want to remember the name of the group now. That is in charge of, you know, wash stuff in Nigeria. And when they introduced me, I said, "Oh, it's
Okay.
you. I've been wanting to see you, sir." And we started talking. I said, "I'm not sure." And what is happening to this our group? You know, I know people in Akwa Ibom in several places that we meet in on other platforms, and we discuss this by the side. But I think we are not paying attention to things that matter. We are, I think people are interested in their purses, what they could have. You know, let's pay attention to this. Yes, Newsan, thank you, ma. Dr. Priscilla, I'm grateful, ma. Yes, Newsan. You see, let's pay attention to things that matter. We are not looking at things that matter. And because we're not looking at that, we're having more problems. When we look at this, we can also showcase this. Other nations are talking about it. Yes. But like I said, I don't have any problem with the reusable menstrual kit, but I have given you 5 factors that I have seen that will delimit the use of that thing. And I think it's a challenge we should look into. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayo. Thank you for all the things you do with at Clean Nation Foundation. I would like to say a very big thank you to the people who has always made sure that we come live on every other week. I would like to say thank you to Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, Climate and Sustainable Development Network, and of course Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Environmental Resort, and today I have with me Pastor Ayo Okelano. Is joining us from Osun State, and we are talking about menstrual hygiene and the environment. And it's been quite interesting conversation, you know, given the expertise of Pastor Ayo. I'm talking about how we could, you know, innovate around, you know, the kind of menstrual pad our ladies used, and of course talking about wash. But again, there are other issues I would still like us to, you know, talk about before we call it a wrap today on the show, because this is actually very important. Climate change is here with us, and we are doing our very best to see that we reduce carbon footprint or carbon emission to near 1.5, and everyone is looking at what the global north will do in terms of bringing in resources. But then we also have to, you know, look inward and talk about innovations. And I want to, you know, find out from you, Mr. Ayo, how I just wanted to, you know, share innovations or what you think we could do, because right now you've talked about how scarce or expensive the biodegradable and they're not readily available. Are there no ways for us to manage what we have here? Because 90 to 90, more than 90%, if I'm not mistaken, of what we have presently ends up in landfills. and that is you had already shared that are not quite good with the environment. Are there no ways we could manage what we already, the kind of menstrual waste we are already generating? What are those measures we could manage to avoid them ending up in landfills?
Hmm. Thank you very much, Sergio. Now, one of the major things I'm looking at is like various countries, we've not been doing that in Nigeria, that separates various wastes. Glass to this place, plastic to this place, uh, you know, organic materials, waste organic materials to this place, and so on. But there's a cultural challenge. There's a taboo around menstruation. Yes, there's a taboo around menstruation. And what's this taboo? People believe, some people even pick your menstrual pad to go and do juju, and people are scared.
Yeah, I learned that happens a lot, even with children diapers.
You see, now, if that is not, I would have said we could always have people whose job is to pack menstrual pad and we can recycle. That could be a very good way of using what we have. Because if we could have them, instead of them going to the landfills, going to dump sites, we know that this bag, everything in this bag is this. I was discussing with a lady, one of our volunteers, and you know what she does? She picks a menstrual pad when she finishes using this, and she removes the lint, that thing that soaks the blood there. She
Yeah.
removes it, washes it, and then pack the whole thing back. That is our own way of doing it. If we have that, we're going to have less mess.
Like she reused them
Separate.
afterwards.
Exactly. No, she doesn't reuse. She only separates.
Okay.
She separates. She separates the cotton fat or the
Okay,
absorbent
from the plastic.
from the plastic.
Oh
And
wow,
then,
amazing.
yeah. So if we could have such a thing, then, but how many persons can do
All
that?
right.
Because to some people, this is very irritating. Very irritating. So these are the issues. Our major problem with what we just mentioned is disposing. How do we dispose of this? So if we're looking at it, it goes down to the culture, just like I said. We have a cultural challenge, and I don't think it's much of the culture, but more of the reality. Is a fact that some people have caught some people doing this. Unfortunately, too, do you know that some young people have started using the menstrual pad as an intoxicant? There is a way they process it, and they do what? They sniff.
Oh wow. I'm
Yeah.
just hearing about this.
Oh, very seriously. Very serious. So now, but all I'm talking about is if all we have is that we cannot do without using this, and because we've not had that, then let's see how do we work on this to be able to separate between the plastic and the cotton or the absorbent. And not
Hmm.
only that, we could also go deep down. It's also boils down to the politicians, like I said. We could have policies that speak to what we're talking about. We could have legislation, just like we have all of these things talking about various of all of these laws we have, PACJA, what do you call this, the child's right law, or all of these. Like we have all of these, we could have legislations speaking to menstruation, because menstruation is a serious issue. It's a serious issue. It's a serious issue. So we could have
Okay.
legislation towards that. So when we have
Okay.
that, I
Okay.
think
Yeah. So Mr. Ayo, because of time, I was supposed to keep you here for about 30 minutes, but we have already eaten deep into your time. But I would like to ask, because there's a problem when we are talking about advocacy, and I want to know. This is a two-in-one question, sort of.
okay.
Why should men get involved? Because I don't know. When you accepted to speak on this, I was equally shocked. Because, but then I'm open to all sort of conversation, so long it brings the general good to the society. So why do men run away from this? And then what role do men have to play? That's one. And two, are we talking enough about the issues related to menstrual hygiene, particularly as it pertains to the environment? Are we talking enough about it?
I'll start from that. We are not talking enough about it. And that is why you even have a shock. There's a cultural shock when it comes to talking about menstrual hygiene. I told you of one of my students that had to do a research work on
Yeah,
yes, on
absolutely.
menstruation and feminine touch growth. I just told her we've had a research which speaks to the fact that students don't go to school once they are menstruating because they can't afford it. I said, so let's see if people go to church when they can't afford it. And the question is, many it's the same, they don't. Now, back to where you are. Why is it that men must be involved? Unfortunately, men must be involved because of stigmatization. Look at what happens in Nepal, for instance. Nepal, when your daughter, no matter her age, 12, 9, 10, she's menstruating, she must not stay with you in the house. She must go into the bush. And a lot of girls have lost their life, snake bites, scorpion, and the rest of it. This happens. Now, it's not happening like that in our place. So that we can protect the women, the girls, from the society, men should know about it. I was in a program, I don't know whether it was, there's a group that called me for a program, and I told them, I said, one of the problems we have on menstruation and female genital mutilation, because we're also involved with that, is one of our major problems are women, older women, because they will tell you this is how they've done it to us and they must do it to you. They will tell you they are the
Mm.
custodian of such cultures, custodians of such customs. And so we have problems. So men can prevail over them and say, no, we're not going to take this. Not only that, religious leaders see menstruation to be evil. And I've challenged many people. I said, if your mama no menstruate, you know go come alive.
You know, for born you. Mm.
Exactly. And that tells you menstruation is not unholy. I contest that with people. One day, a woman was
Absolutely.
menstruating, and she taught Jesus. Jesus did not say she was unclean. All the people that she went through that were supposed to be unclean by the Mosaic law, it didn't pronounce any of them unclean. That means menstruation is not unclean,
Mm.
actually. So men have to be involved so as to be able to defend the women, the girls. And speaking out, we have to get to the grassroots, talk to our cultures, that this thing is not what you think it is. It is our life. Menstruation is our life. If there's look at ladies going on mountains, praying everywhere because they want to menstruate. Yes. So it's very, very important. It's not impure. So men should talk about it. Men should get involved.
Men should men should talk about it. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ayo. This is quite an exhilarating moment for me. I wish we have so much time, but then whenever we have this very important kind of conversation, time will always be our enemy. But before I'll let you go today, Pastor Ayo, I'd like you to, because one of the things we like doing on environmental research, and of course on the show we have you on here in TV, is we raise interventions. I would like you to, though you've done them in passing, I would like you to, raise a few interventions that you would love to see going forward
Good.
with regards to the issue of menstrual hygiene and as it pertains to the environment.
I'd love to see us making advocacy on, tax reduction or removal exemption for people who make menstrual pads, so that it becomes accessible to the last person in the in the community. I would also like to see us make legislation, like I said, let there be policies that favors menstruation. And then I would also like to see us coming up with cases in which in schools we could have the menstrual kit as a part of the first aid box. There are girls in the school suddenly see their menstrual flow and there is nowhere to run to. I want to see this, that Ministry of Education makes this as a part of what they can use to help. And then all of the PhDs around, could we also have it there, that at least when a lady comes there and says, please, I cannot have it, our first ladies can help us with that. Let there be an amount that is accountable for, that they could go there. It's just like a bank. Yeah, religious organizations could get involved with this. Let's have a bank for menstrual stuff. And then disposal. How do government help us with disposal? Let them help us with disposal, telling people, and then telling them nothing is going to happen with your menstrual pad. You can remove the blood part, give us the other part, so that we can save the environment. And as we do this, I think we could be having a good way forward concerning menstruation and the environment.
Thank you so very much. Beautiful interventions, particularly as it has to do with creating the menstrual pad bank in schools.
Mm.
And I believe ministers of education and of course commissioner of education across the states in Nigeria will get to take action with this regard. Even I really just folks who want to take. And I like the fact that you are a pastor and you are suggesting this. I want to believe that you will have to take this action even in your congregation. Thank you so very much, Pastor Ayo of Clean Nation Foundation, and thanks for the many things you do there at Clean Nation Foundation. It's been 40 minutes well
Wow.
spent with you, and we sincerely appreciate you. We look forward to having you again on our show sometime in the near future.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ayo.
It is a
Okay, so
pleasure.
ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great moment here. Having a conversation with Pastor Ayo or Kelano of a Clean Nation Foundation, who came to share his thought with us on issues with that pertains to do with menstrual hygiene and the environment. And I bet you it's been quite a rewarding session, and there's a whole lot to learn. Even myself, I came to learn a whole lot from Mr. Ayo. Mr. Ayo happens to be a very versatile environmentalist. He's been quite knowledgeable in the area of sciences and, of course, in the art, even in the religious circle. And he has done a whole lot of projects with regards to WASH, regards to climate advocacy, climate related projects, and of course, he's also a traveler. And I believe some of his poetry, some of his jobs around poetry, because he's a poet, tackle issues such as this, and it's been quite rewarding. And then also thank you so very much once again, Pastor Yo, for being a part of the show today, and thank you to everyone, to you out there that's always spending your time and your resources to make sure that you watch whatever it is we put out here for you to learn from. Thank you, and thank you indeed. Thank you to our partners, to everyone that has always made sure that we have this show running. Climate and Sustainable Development Network of Nigeria, Pan African Climate Justice Alliance, and Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. Thank you, and thank you for the amazing things you do. Like I had said during the opening of this show, after the African Climate Summit, going into the African Climate Week, what next? What should we expect as African, especially as we go into preparation for COP28? Ladies and gentlemen, those are questions we need to pound around, and of how we could, come out victorious as Africans in our demand for climate justice. And that will be the size of our show today on Environmental Resort. Thank you once again. My name is Ediong Senyenen Dunobong, and this is where we will do our Bible. Ladies and gentlemen, see you on the next.
This is ENTV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature. This is ENTV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature.